The breaking point, the void of space, burned with plasma fire as the Varathian Empire's warfleet descended upon the Galactic Coalition's final defensive line. Admiral Thexner stood aboard the Coalition command station, his four eyes tracking the holographic display that showed 17 allied worlds falling silent one by one. The Varathians had been conquering territories for 3 centuries, and now they stood at the precipice of total galactic domination. The command center hummed with desperate activity. Officers from a dozen species worked frantically at their stations, coordinating what remained of the Coalition's battered forces. Thexner's scaled hands trembled slightly as he watched another fleet icon disappear from the tactical map. The Korathi had surrendered. The Selenians had gone dark. Only 12 Coalition vessels remained operational, facing a Varathian armada of over 200 ships. Lieutenant Vera approached the Admiral, her crystalline features reflecting the warning lights that flashed across the bridge. Her voice carried the weight of someone delivering a death sentence. Admiral, long-range sensors detect another Varathian battle group entering the sector. They will arrive within the hour. Our shields are failing. Weapon reserves are depleted to 30%, and we have no reinforcements. Thexner closed his eyes. 3,000 years of Coalition history, hundreds of member species, all about to fall under Varathian tyranny. The Empire showed no mercy to conquered worlds. They stripped resources, enslaved populations, and erased cultures. Everything the Coalition had built, everything they had fought to preserve, would be lost. There is one more option, Vera said quietly, her voice barely audible over the alarm systems. The humans responded to our distress call. The Admiral's eyes snapped open. The humans? That primitive species that just achieved faster than light travel 15 years ago? What could they possibly offer? They claim to have a single vessel in range. The Prometheus. They say they can reach our position within 20 minutes. Thexner felt something between hope and despair. One ship. From a species so young they barely understood quantum mechanics, the Coalition had accepted Earth's membership application 5 years ago as a diplomatic gesture, never expecting these newcomers to contribute anything meaningful. Human technology was centuries behind the Coalition standard. Their largest vessel carried fewer weapons than a Coalition patrol craft. Tell them to stay away, Thexner began, but Vera interrupted him. Admiral, they are already here. The main view screen shifted, showing a vessel emerging from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the battlefield. The Prometheus was unlike anything Thexner had seen in his 40 years of military service. Where Coalition ships favored elegant curves and Varathian vessels embraced brutal efficiency. The human battleship looked almost organic. Its hull seemed to shift and ripple, covered in hexagonal panels that absorbed and reflected light in strange patterns. A communication channel opened, and a human face appeared on the screen. Captain James Reeves had the worn features of someone who had seen combat before, despite humanity's brief time in space. His brown eyes surveyed the tactical situation with an intensity that surprised Thexner. Coalition Command, this is Captain Reeves of the Prometheus. We have analyzed the battlefield conditions and are prepared to engage the Varathian fleet. Requesting tactical command authority. Several officers in the command center made sounds of disbelief. Thexner himself struggled to process the audacity of the request. This human, commanding a single untested vessel from a species that still fought wars on their own planet's surface, wanted to take command of the Coalition's defense. Captain Reeves, Thexner said carefully, I appreciate your courage in responding to our call, but you do not understand the situation. The Varathian Empire has perfected warfare over 3 centuries. Their tactics are flawless, their weapons are superior to anything the Coalition possesses, and their numbers are overwhelming. One ship, regardless of its capabilities, cannot change this outcome. Reeves smiled, but there was no humor in it. Admiral, with respect, you are correct that you cannot change this outcome. You have been fighting the Varathians using their rules, their tactics, and their understanding of warfare. That is why you are losing. Humanity has a different perspective. We have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We wrote the book on asymmetric warfare, on psychological operations, on turning disadvantages into weapons. Give us tactical command, and we will show you what happens when the Varathians face an opponent who does not play by their rules. Before Thexner could respond, The Varathian fleet opened fire. Plasma bolts and kinetic projectiles streaked toward the Coalition's remaining vessels. The Prometheus moved, and Thexner witnessed something that defied his understanding of physics. The human ship did not dodge or raise shields, or the Corator. Instead, its hull rippled like water, and every incoming projectile simply passed through it as if the vessel was not entirely present in normal space. "Explain that," Thexner demanded. "Adaptive matter phasing," Reeves replied casually as his ship accelerated toward the Varathian line. "Human scientists discovered that matter is not as solid as most species believe. We built our vessels to exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously. Your weapons are designed to hit ships that exist in one reality. We exist in several at once." The Prometheus dove into the Varathian formation, moving with impossible agility. Coalition sensors struggled to track it as the human vessel seemed to flicker in and out of existence. Varathian ships opened fire, pouring enough energy to vaporize a small moon, but the Prometheus remained untouched. Then the human ship returned fire, and Thexner witnessed something even more shocking. The Prometheus did not use energy weapons or missiles. Instead, it released thousands of small objects that scattered throughout the Varathian fleet. At first, the Empire's commanders ignored them, focusing their fire on the main vessel. That was their first mistake. The small objects were drones, each no larger than a human fist, but equipped with something the Coalition had never developed: true artificial intelligence. Not the limited computer systems that most species used, but genuine thinking machines that could learn, adapt, and make decisions faster than any biological mind. The drones did not attack the Varathian ships directly. Instead, they began broadcasting signals across every communication frequency, jamming sensors, disrupting targeting systems, and flooding Varathian networks with false information. Within seconds, the Empire's carefully coordinated fleet dissolved into chaos. Ships fired on their own allies. Navigation systems reported contradictory positions. Command networks collapsed under the weight of information warfare. "What are you doing to them?" Vera asked, her voice filled with awe. "Humans learned a long time ago that the most effective weapon is not the one that destroys your enemy, but the one that makes them destroy themselves," Reeves explained. "Right now, every Varathian ship thinks it is under attack from multiple directions. Their tactical computers are overwhelmed. Their commanders are receiving contradictory orders. We have not fired a single lethal shot, and they are tearing their own formation apart." A Varathian battlecruiser, one of their most powerful vessels, collided with a destroyer as both ships maneuvered frantically to escape threats that did not exist. Explosions rippled through the enemy fleet as discipline and order evaporated. "Now," Reeves said quietly, "we attack." The Prometheus opened fire with its actual weapons, and Thexner finally understood why humanity had sent only one ship. The human vessel carried directed energy weapons that operated on principles the Coalition had never mastered. Instead of overwhelming shields with brute force, these weapons identified the exact frequency each shield operated on and fired concentrated bursts designed to create resonance cascades. Varathian shields, designed to withstand tremendous punishment, shattered like glass under the precise surgical strikes. 3 Varathian cruisers went dark, their power systems overloaded. 2 destroyers listed helplessly as their engines failed. The Empire's fleet, which had dominated galactic warfare for centuries, found itself fighting an enemy that broke every rule they understood. "All Coalition vessels," Reeves broadcast on the command frequency, "form up on the Prometheus. We are going to push through their line and target their command ship. Stay in our phasing field and their weapons cannot touch you." Thexner made a decision that would change galactic history. All ships follow the human's lead. Tactical command is transferred to Captain Reeves. The 12 remaining Coalition vessels fell into formation behind the Prometheus, and something impossible happened. The human ship's quantum phasing effect extended to cover the Allied fleet. Together they drove toward the heart of the Varathian armada like a spear of light through darkness. The Varathian commander, General Kraksoth, watched from his flagship as his fleet disintegrated around him. In 300 years of conquest, the Empire had never faced an enemy like this. These humans fought with a creativity and unpredictability that Varathian tactical doctrine could not counter, could not counter. They used weapons that should not exist, employed strategies that violated every principle of proper warfare, and showed a complete disregard for conventional military thinking. All ships, fall back to defensive formation, Kraxoth ordered, his voice tight with controlled panic. Alert, High Command. We need reinforcements immediately. But it was too late. The Prometheus and its coalition escorts broke through the Varathian line. The human vessel fired a single weapon, a focused electromagnetic pulse that disabled every system on the Varathian flagship, except life support. Kraxoth's command ship went dark and silent, drifting helplessly in space. The remaining Varathian vessels, seeing their commander defeated, broke formation and fled into faster-than-light travel. In less than 30 minutes, a fleet that had conquered dozens of worlds had been routed by a single human battleship and a handful of coalition escorts. Silence filled the coalition command center. Officers stared at their displays in disbelief. The Varathians had retreated. The battle was over. They had won. Cross, Thexter said slowly. On behalf of the Galactic Coalition, I must ask, where did humanity learn to fight like that? We have fought over resources, territory, ideology, and pride. We have developed thousands of ways to destroy each other, and we have learned that the side that wins is not always the one with the most powerful weapons, but the one that thinks differently. When you invited Earth to join the coalition, you gained an ally that brings 10,000 years of military innovation, strategic thinking, and tactical creativity. The Varathians have perfected their way of war. Humans have perfected every way of war. As Thexner processed this information, a new alert appeared on the tactical display. Varathian reinforcements were approaching, and this time they were not sending a standard fleet. The Empire's elite war armada, commanded by the legendary War Marshal Thrankar himself, was entering the sector. 200 vessels of the line, the finest ships in Varathian space, crewed by warriors who had never known defeat. Reeves studied the incoming fleet and smiled. Admiral, I think it is time we showed the galaxy what happens when you truly anger humanity. Prometheus to Earth Command, requesting authorization for protocol defiance. A response came almost immediately from Earth. Protocol defiance authorized, Captain. Show them what we are capable of. Thexner had no idea what protocol defiance meant, but as he watched the Prometheus begin powering up systems that coalition sensors could barely detect, he realized that the galaxy was about to witness something unprecedented. Humanity had arrived in the stars, and warfare would never be the same. The real battle was about to begin. Humanity's answer War Marshal Thrankar studied the tactical hologram aboard his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, with the confidence of a predator that had never encountered anything capable of resisting its bite. His scarred carapace bore the marks of 73 battles, every one of them a victory. The Empire had given him command of their elite war armada because he represented everything Varathian military doctrine had perfected over 3 centuries. Overwhelming force, flawless coordination, and absolute discipline. The reports from General Kraxoth's fleet are confirmed, his second-in-command reported, mandibles clicking with barely concealed disdain. A single human vessel defeated our forward battle group using unconventional tactics. The species is primitively aggressive, technologically inferior by all standard measurements, yet somehow effective. Thrankar's multiple eyes focused on the data streaming across his display. The human ship, this Prometheus, had phasing technology, artificial intelligence warfare systems, and weapons that operated on principles outside standard military science. Impressive for a species so young, but ultimately irrelevant. The Empire had conquered civilizations far more advanced than Earth. Every species believed their technology made them special until Varathian discipline broke them. Deploy the fleet in sovereign formation, Thrankar commanded. 200 ships, perfect synchronization, no gaps in our defensive network. These humans relied on chaos and confusion to defeat Kraxoth's forces. Against true military precision, their tricks will fail. We will demonstrate why the Varathian Empire has never lost a war. The elite armada emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, each vessel exactly positioned according to tactical doctrine refined over generations. Energy shields overlapped, creating an impenetrable defensive barrier. Weapon systems targeted every possible approach vector. So the communication networks synchronized across multiple redundant channels, immune to the jamming that had disrupted Kraxoth's fleet. It was a masterpiece of military engineering, and Thrankar knew it was unbeatable. On the Coalition command station, Admiral Thexner watched the Varathian armada materialize with a sinking feeling. The elite fleet was everything the earlier battle group had not been. Disciplined, prepared, and enormous. 200 of the Empire's finest warships against 13 Coalition vessels and 1 human battleship. The odds were impossibly stacked against them. "Captain Reeves," Thexner said carefully, "perhaps it would be wise to withdraw. You have already achieved more than anyone thought possible. There is no shame in recognizing when a battle cannot be won." The human captain appeared on the view screen, and Thexner noticed something different about him now. Reeves no longer looked tired or worn. Instead, his eyes carried an intensity that reminded the Admiral of predators from his homeworld, creatures that became more dangerous when cornered. "Admiral, I need to explain something about humanity," Reeves said quietly. "For most of our history, we were not a unified species. We were divided into nations, tribes, and factions that fought each other constantly. We developed military strategies not just to defeat enemies with superior technology, but to survive against opponents who outnumbered us, who had better weapons, We learned that when conventional tactics fail, you change the nature of the battle itself." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice carried absolute certainty. "The Varathians are about to learn why Earth's military academies teach ancient human history alongside modern warfare. They are going to face something their 3 centuries of conquest never prepared them for, an enemy that refuses to fight on their terms." Captain Reeves opened a channel to his crew. "All hands, this is the captain. We are initiating Protocol Defiance. For those who do not know, this protocol was named after humanity's greatest military victories, the battles where we faced impossible odds and won anyway. Thermopylae, where 300 Spartans held back an army of thousands. Agincourt, where English longbowmen defeated French heavy cavalry. Midway, where aircraft carriers changed the nature of naval warfare. Today, we add another chapter to that history. Today, we show the galaxy what humans do when someone tells us we cannot win." The S Prometheus began to change. The hexagonal panels covering its hull rearranged themselves, and new weapon ports opened across the vessel's surface. Coalition sensors detected massive power surges, as systems that had remained dormant suddenly activated. The human battleship was transforming into something entirely different, revealing capabilities it had kept hidden during the first engagement. "Prometheus, to all Coalition vessels," Reeves broadcast. "Fall back to minimum safe distance. What we are about to do requires room to operate." Thexner wanted to protest, to demand explanations, but something in the human captain's tone made him comply. The Coalition ships retreated, and the S Prometheus advanced alone toward the Varathian armada. War Marshal Thrankar watched the human vessel approach and felt something he had not experienced in decades. Confusion. Military doctrine dictated that a lone ship facing overwhelming numbers should either retreat or attempt to negotiate. This human was doing neither. The Prometheus was accelerating directly toward his fleet's strongest defensive position. "Target the human vessel," Thrankar ordered. "All ships, concentrate fire." Overwhelming force coordinated timing. "Destroy it before it can employ whatever deception it used against Kraxoth." 200 Varathian warships opened fire simultaneously. The volume of energy unleashed was enough to sterilize a planet's surface. Plasma bolts, kinetic projectiles, and directed energy weapons converged on a single point in space where the S Prometheus had been a fraction of a second earlier. The human ship was no longer there. It had not dodged or activated its phasing technology. Instead, it had done something that violated every tactical prediction Thrankar's computers had calculated. It had accelerated forward, diving directly into the densest concentration of fire. The Prometheus emerged from the weapon barrage completely undamaged, and Thrankar finally understood what he was facing. The human vessel had timed its movement perfectly, passing through the exact microsecond gap between when his ships fired and when their weapons converged. It was not luck or superior technology. It was calculation and timing refined to an impossible degree. Impossible. His second-in-command breathed. Their computers would need to process faster than quantum mechanics allow to predict that window. They are not using computers, Threnkar realized with growing horror. They are using something else. Aboard the Prometheus, Captain Reeves stood on the bridge surrounded by holographic displays that showed information in ways no other species had developed. His crew was not simply monitoring systems or following orders. They were connected to the ship through neural interfaces, their human brains working in concert with the vessel's artificial intelligence to create something unprecedented. True fusion of biological intuition and machine precision. Neural synchronization at 97%, his executive officer reported, her eyes unfocused as she processed data streams directly through her cortical implant. The AI has identified 312 exploitable patterns in Varathian fleet coordination. Uploading tactical solutions, now whale. This was humanity's true advantage, the secret that made protocol defiance possible. While other species kept artificial intelligence carefully limited and controlled, fearing the consequences of true machine consciousness, humans had taken a different approach. They had learned to work with AI as partners, combining human creativity with machine processing power to achieve things neither could accomplish alone. The Prometheus released its drone swarm again, but this time the thousands of small machines did not simply jam communications or create false signals. Each drone was controlled by a fragment of the ship's AI working in perfect coordination with human tactical officers. Together they created something the Varathians had never encountered, a distributed intelligence network that could think, adapt, and react faster than any traditional military system. The drones attacked, but not with weapons. They attached themselves to Varathian ships and began broadcasting signals that exploited a weakness humanity had identified in the Empire's military structure. The Varathians relied on rigid command hierarchies, and every ship followed orders from Threnkar's flagship without question. It made them efficient and coordinated, but it also created a single point of failure. The human drones began issuing contradictory orders in perfect Varathian military code. Not random noise or obvious deceptions, but carefully crafted commands that seemed legitimate. Lower-ranking ship commanders received orders that conflicted with what their instruments showed them. Navigation officers saw course corrections that did not match their admiral's strategy. Weapon officers received targeting priorities that made no tactical sense. At first, Varathian discipline held. Officers questioned the strange orders, checked with their superiors, and maintained formation. But the drones were learning, adapting, and refining their approach with every passing second. They identified which types of orders would be followed without verification, which communication protocols had the most authority, and which officers were most likely to trust their instruments over their instincts. The Varathian formation began to fracture. Not through chaos or confusion this time, but through something more insidious. Doubt. Officers hesitated before following orders. Commanders questioned whether the messages they received were genuine. The absolute certainty that made Varathian military doctrine so effective began to crumble under the weight of uncertainty. All ships ignore external communications, Threnkar ordered desperately. Follow only direct visual signals from the flagship. Maintain formation integrity. But humanity had anticipated that response. The Prometheus launched a second wave of drones, these ones equipped with holographic projectors. They positioned themselves around Varathian vessels and began displaying visual signals that perfectly mimicked the flagship's communication lights. Now even direct visual confirmation was compromised. Captain Reeves watched the Varathian fleet dissolve into confusion and felt no satisfaction, only grim necessity. Tactical begin phase 2. Target their command structure, but use non-lethal weapons only. I want their ships disabled, not destroyed. Sir, we could end this faster with lethal force, his weapons officer pointed out. We are not here to commit genocide, Reeves replied firmly. We are here to prove that humanity can defend itself and its allies. There is a difference between winning a battle and becoming monsters. Disable their ships, give them the option to surrender. The Prometheus opened fire with electromagnetic pulse weapons that overloaded Varathian power systems without destroying the vessels themselves. One by one, Empire ships went dark, their crews unharmed but helpless. The mighty war fleet that had never known defeat found itself systematically dismantled by an opponent that fought unlike anything they had ever faced. War Marshal Threnkar stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion and watched his perfect formation collapse. 3 centuries of Varathian military supremacy, 73 consecutive victories, and an empire that had conquered hundreds of worlds all meant nothing against an enemy that rewrote the rules of engagement. The humans had not defeated him through superior weapons or overwhelming numbers. They had defeated him by attacking something the Varathians had never thought to defend. The psychological certainty that made their military doctrine function. "Signal the fleet," Threnkar said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of historical significance. "Cease fire. We surrender." The words felt alien in his mouth. Varathian military language did not have a formal term for surrender, and it had never been necessary. But Threnkar was a warrior, not a fool, and an opponent had fundamentally outmatched him. Captain Reeves appeared on his view screen, and Threnkar saw something in the human's eyes that surprised him. Respect, not triumph. "War Marshal Threnkar, this is Captain James Reeves. Your surrender is accepted. Your crews will be treated with dignity and return to Varathian space unharmed. We have disabled your vessels, not destroyed them, because Earth does not seek conquest or revenge. We seek only to protect our allies and prove that humanity deserves its place among the stars." Threnkar studied the human carefully. "You could have destroyed my entire fleet. Why show mercy?" Reeves was silent for a moment before responding. "Because my species learned a hard lesson over thousands of years of warfare. The goal of battle is not to create enemies forever, but to create the possibility of future peace. Today we fought. Tomorrow, perhaps we can build something better." The Coalition Command Center erupted in celebration as they realized the battle was over. 13 vessels and 1 human battleship had defeated the Varathian Empire's elite warfleet without firing a single lethal shot. It was a victory that would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations. Admiral Thexner opened a channel to the Prometheus, his voice filled with emotions he could not fully express. "Captain Reeves, on behalf of the Galactic Coalition, I must acknowledge that we underestimated your species. We saw primitive newcomers who had barely left their home system. We did not see the depth of experience and strategic thinking that humanity brings to galactic civilization. You have not only saved us today, but you have taught us that technological advancement is not the only measure of capability." "Admiral," Reeves replied, "Earth has a saying. It is not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. Humanity spent millennia learning how to survive against stronger opponents. We learned to think creatively, to adapt constantly, and to never accept that a battle is unwinnable. Those lessons served us well today." Over the following hours, Coalition vessels assisted the disabled Varathian ships, providing power and life support while repairs were made. Human medical teams offered aid to injured Empire personnel. It was a strange sight, yesterday's enemies working together, but it represented something profound. The possibility that galactic civilization could evolve beyond endless cycles of conquest and revenge. War Marshal Threnkar met with Captain Reeves aboard the Coalition Command Station days later. The Varathian warrior carried himself with dignity despite his defeat, and the human captain showed him the respect due to a formidable opponent. "My empire will not forget this," Threnkar said carefully. "We have conquered for 3 centuries because no opponent could match our military precision. You defeated us by refusing to fight the battle we expected. That lesson will reshape Varathian strategic thinking for generations. I hope it does more than that," Reeves replied. "I hope it makes your empire reconsider whether conquest is the only path forward. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us. Imagine what our species could accomplish if we worked together instead of fighting each other." Threnkar considered this radical idea, perhaps. "But understand, Captain, that you have made humanity both respected and feared throughout the galaxy. Every civilization now knows that Earth possesses military capabilities that can challenge even the most established powers. That knowledge will change everything. I know, Reeves acknowledged. Humanity did not want to reveal ourselves this way. We would have preferred to join galactic civilization peacefully, to contribute our culture and knowledge gradually. But when our allies faced extinction, we had no choice. Now the galaxy knows what we are capable of, and we will have to live with the consequences. The two warriors stood in silence, each understanding that they had participated in a moment that would define galactic history. The age of Varathian dominance was over. The age of humanity's presence in the stars had begun, and the galaxy would never be quite the same. Admiral Thexner watched the human battleship prepare to depart and reflected on everything that had changed. The Galactic Coalition had survived because a species they had dismissed as primitively aggressive newcomers had proven that strength came in many forms. Humanity had brought not just advanced technology, but thousands of years of strategic thinking, tactical innovation, and the creative unpredictability that emerged from a species that had fought itself for so long before reaching the stars. The Prometheus activated its faster-than-light drive and vanished, returning to Earth to report humanity's first major engagement in galactic affairs, but its legacy remained. Throughout Coalition space, military strategists began studying human warfare doctrines. Political leaders reconsidered their assumptions about technological progress and military capability, and even the Varathian Empire, undefeated for 3 centuries, began questioning whether conquest was truly the only path to greatness. The galaxy had seen its fate change when Earth's battleship entered the fray, not because humanity possessed the most powerful weapons or the largest fleet, but because humans had learned through millennia of conflict that victory often belonged to those who thought differently, adapted constantly, and refused to accept that any battle was truly unwinnable. Captain James Reeves sat in his quarters aboard the Prometheus as Earth grew larger on the view screen, and he thought about the message he would deliver to humanity's leaders. They had proven themselves capable of defending their place among the stars. They had shown mercy, even in victory. They had demonstrated that human ingenuity, creativity, and determination could challenge civilizations thousands of years more advanced. But they had also revealed themselves to a galaxy that would now watch humanity with a mixture of hope, respect, and fear. The easy path, the quiet integration into galactic civilization, was no longer possible. Earth had announced its presence dramatically and decisively. The real challenges were just beginning. But if humanity had learned anything from its long, violent history, it was this. When faced with impossible odds, humans did not surrender. They adapted, they innovated, and they found ways to win that no one else had imagined possible. The galaxy would learn that lesson well in the years to come. Humanity had arrived among the stars, and the universe would never underestimate them again.